Now at 4 o'clock, in order to restore, a judge has issued a preliminary injunction now requiring the Trump administration to reinstall that slavery exhibit at the President's House site on Independence Mall. It is Monday afternoon. I'm Brian Taff.
And I'm Tamala Edwards in for Sarah Bloomquist. The big story on Action News is that ruling today on the controversial removal of those panels at the President's House. A federal judge sided with the city of Philadelphia and advocacy groups who took the Trump administration to court over the exhibit's removal.
Yeah, Action News reporter Taronda Thomas was right there when activists got word of that ruling today. She's live now at the site with more on the order today and reaction to it. Taronda.
Brian, just a couple of weeks ago, across the street there in federal court, a judge started hearing this case, which has brought a lot of protests from people who want to see the President's House restored. One of those protests is happening right now, a group of young people gathering at that site, which you can see has been stripped of the panels that were once there. Today, the judge sided with organizations like this one protesting and the city of Philadelphia, ordering that the President's House be restored. What started as a protest ended as a celebration.
I have great news. We just won in federal court.
A crowd of people gathered to demand the President's House be restored to reflect the stories of enslaved people kept by George Washington, and a federal district court judge agreed.
The fact that the judge granted the preliminary injunction is a tremendous victory. When I say tremendous, that's actually an understatement. It's historic.
The judge ordered that panels with stories of the enslaved be put back on the walls and that the President's House be restored to the way it looked before January 22nd. That's the day the panels were taken down after an executive order from the Trump administration. The city of Philadelphia filed a lawsuit saying the government had no right to take down the panels because of a cooperative agreement between the government and the city. Lawyers for the Trump administration argued that cooperative agreement expired in 2010, but the judge says a survival clause in the agreement makes certain parts of it still valid. Her 40-page decision also adds that the federal government cannot take any further action to damage the panels or change anything else at the site. The judge made her decision after visiting the site.
Once she saw the panels, once she came to the site, I was confident she was going to do the right thing.
Avenging the Ancestors Coalition joined in the city's lawsuit, which stated that removing the panels would cause irreparable harm. The judge noted that the city of Philadelphia contributed millions of dollars to building the President's House, and that removing the stories of slavery means, quote, the city of Philadelphia is deprived of the ability to honestly and accurately tell the story of its own history. That history soon to be restored by the judge's decision.
Better than fighting the good fight is winning the good fight, and today we won.
Now, the judge did have some strong words in her decision. She said, quote, each person who visits the President's House and does not learn of the realities of founding era slavery receives a false account of this country's history. Now, the federal government could still appeal the judge's decision. I did reach out to the Department of the Interior. I so far have not heard back from them on a response to the judge's decision. I did hear from the office of Mayor Sherrell Parker. She and her senior staff members are currently reviewing the court's decision, and we should have a statement from her shortly.
Now remember, Trump did the executive order because as he stated, that he wanted to get rid of any history or any depiction of that would divide America or any race-centered ideology. I don't understand. Now, you can tell me if I'm understanding it wrong, but I don't understand how having historical records, basically what they are, historical records of what happened, would be race-based ideology. It's history. History. I want to understand history. I want to understand our history. I want to understand United States history. And I think the only way for a country or people or anyone to move forward and grow is from understanding the past. But let's go over into this next video to see if they tell us any more details.
It is 8:14. Welcome back. A federal judge says the Trump administration must restore slavery-related exhibits at a national park in Philadelphia. The judge, who was appointed by George W. Bush, said the move was, quote, an attack on truth itself. However, President Trump said exhibits like that one bring a sense of national shame. Justice Department lawyers argue that the federal government has the right to express its views on such subjects.
So joining us now is our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. This isn't just happening at this one spot in Philadelphia. This has kind of been happening at different national parks. So what do you make of this judge's ruling on
Well,
this?
if you've been following at home, this is the writing was on the wall, pun intended. March 25th, President Trump signs an executive order stating that they want to look out and look for anti-American ideology at the Smithsonian. Trump condemns civil rights and slavery in August, criticizing it, calling it excessive on how bad all of these locations make slavery look. New York Times interview, he said after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a lot of bad policies were created. And so this was just the next logical step after making statements like that and directing individuals to go and find things that he believes were anti-American. So yeah, this did.
That one statement he said, basically saying that that looks bad on American history, or it looks bad on the American. Let's hear it one more time. One more time. And that was powerful.
Trump condemns civil rights and slavery. And writing was on the wall, pun intended. March 25th, President Trump signs an executive order stating that they want to look out and look for anti-American ideology at the Smithsonian.
Anti-American ideology. So is the history of slavery anti-American ideology?
Trump condemns civil rights and slavery in August, criticizing it, calling it excessive on how bad all of these locations make slavery look. New York Times interview, he said after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a lot of bad policies were created. And so this was just the next logical step after making statements like that and directing individuals to go and find things that he believes were anti-American. So yeah, this is happening in a number of places. Just here in Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia specifically, they decided to bring a lawsuit to stop that. And the judge listed a number of things. It's a 40-page opinion. Judge Roof said a couple of things. And two parts, I'd say. First, being from Philadelphia, love the fact that my city gets an opportunity to be mentioned here. But she says that it claims in regards that echoing Big Brother's domain in Orwell's 1984, that the government alone has the power to erase, alter, remove, and hide historical accounts on taxpayer and local government funded monuments within its control. And then at the end, she says it does not. So she lists out a number of Orwellian type of statements and then contradicts those statements that the government attempts to make by saying that, no, we have a checks and balances of the three co-equal branches and you don't have the power alone to remove these things.
Khalif, the National Park Services, which is a federal agency, they've got, I guess, discretion, if you will, when it comes to interpretation of historical documents, exhibits, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as slavery, right? They're allowed a little leeway when it comes to discretion. Where's that fine line, though, between using discretion with something as sensitive as this and something that's unlawful?
I think the best way to is looking at the judge's order. I say it all the time. Judges speak through their orders. So this is the best statement, and I have it bold here. As in, if the Ministry of Truth in Orwell's 1984 now existed with this model of ignorance is truth, the court is now asked to determine whether the federal government has the power it claims to disassemble and disassemble historical truths. So to alter, to remove, and to replace, those are what the judge is saying you don't have the power to do. Now, can you put something up there to be able to explain what you believe is different than what those reports are saying? But what you can't do is to remove it. What you can't do is say this can't be here, specifically things that Congress has funded to be there. And that's, I think, is going to be the larger issue. If Congress has appropriated funds for this to be built, and then you're saying now as the executive, I can just remove it, well, it undercuts the whole funding process from Congress. Because then if one individual can say, I can remove this, then the whole congressional funding process is irrelevant.
Where do you see this going? Do you see an appeal here?
Oh, most definitely. I mean,
Okay.
the Trump administration will ultimately appeal
What
this.
would that look like?
It would look like we have the authority, and this is the appeals are intentional. If I can get the Supreme Court to address this concern, it's what I've been saying since this Trump administration has taken place, that these are all attempts to try and to see how far the court will allow the executive branch to be stretched. And so if I have a lower court, it's a U.S. district court, but a lower court rule against me, that's what I want. I want to be able to go and appeal this to a court of appeals. And if they rule against me, even better, because now I can get this matter in front of the Supreme Court, and then it can be codified. It can go in front of the largest court, because now if they can say, I have the power to do this, no smaller court can say anything against that. So those have been the challenges throughout this administration, and successful. The Trump administration has lost on the lower court, kind of 50-50 in the middle in appeals, but at the Supreme Court level, they have been extremely successful at getting the executive branch's power to be expanded. And so I think this is another, I mean, if we're looking 2 or 3 years down the road, when it fully plays out, I think that's how it ends. But right now, this is an injunction. You guys know the standard: likelihood of success from the marriage, irreparable harm, balancing of the equities, public policy. This is an easy win in district court for an injunction. You can't fix money and say, hey, a kid didn't get to see that exhibit today, so hey, we got to put it up while we deal with the underlying issue. And that's what the judge said.
Crazy situation, y'all. Let's go over into the AI breakdown just to finish it up. Just giving a little bit more thoughts on it. So, as we know, on February 16th, the federal judge ordered the National Park Service to immediately restore the slavery exhibit at the presidential house site. So, all 34 interpretation panels and video exhibits must be reinstalled in their original condition. Any removed items must be preserved and cannot be destroyed or damaged. The judge cited Orwell's 1984 in her opinion, stating that the government does not have the power to dismantle or disassemble historical truths. The Department of Interior filed an appeal on February 17th, arguing that they were in the process of installing an updated interpretive material before the court's intervention. So they're trying to say that they were already about to add something up there that basically updated the interpreted material. So this all stems from Executive Order 14253, titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to the American History. This March 2025 order directed federal agencies to review and remove content that administrators deem divisive, race-centered ideology. And then the Secretary Order 3431, issued by the Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. This order implemented the executive mandate by instructing the National Park Service to remove interpretive material that inappropriately disparage Americans past or living. I don't know if that's inappropriately, but then it targeted historical reviews. So the administration specifically singled out the Independence National Historic Park for review ahead of the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026, aiming to pivot the focus towards the greatness achievement of the American people. So a Department of Interior spokesman stated that the goal was to ensure historical material aligned with the shared national value and address what the administration called a false revision of history. The city of Philadelphia successfully challenged the removal in court. Now, what are your thoughts, y'all? What are your thoughts? Do you think that having historical imagery and historical depictions of actual history of what slavery went through is divisive, and that we shouldn't have any of this stuff up there? That is how Trump called it. He called it that the awful things that happened during slavery is not what the American people are about. Which, of course, yes, it's been a long time since that has happened. A lot of people have changed. A lot of rules, a lot of laws have changed. But I still think that history needs to be preserved, and we need to still be looking and reviewing what has happened in the past so we can make better choices in the future. But tell me what your thoughts are, y'all. Tell me if you disagree with anything I said. Am I missing the point of it? Am I missing the point of Trump's executive order in the first place? But let me know your thoughts on that situation, y'all. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy world, but this is why we got to review this stuff together, y'all. This is why we have to review this stuff together.